Hi, and welcome to Reddit Confessions. Buckle up, because this story, it starts with a whisper and ends with something far louder. She said it while buttering toast. No eye contact, no build-up. Just calmly spread the knife across the bread and dropped it like a grenade onto my morning. I'm not obligated to make you happy. That was it. No context, no warning. And I just sat there, staring at the little curl of steam rising from my coffee like it could rescue me. I didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. Didn't even ask why. I just swallowed and muttered the dumbest, most honest sentence I've ever spoken. Then I married the wrong woman. She shrugged, like I just asked her if she wanted oat milk or almond. Like it didn't even register. And in that moment, I realized something that made my skin go cold. I was the only one still trying. Not trying to be perfect. God knows I've made mistakes. But trying to connect. To laugh again. To remember what it felt like to be seen. You want to know what hurts more than betrayal? Indifference. That day, I noticed things I'd been ignoring for months. The way she always angled her phone away. The way she never wore her wedding ring unless we were around her family. How she hadn't asked about my days since. Well, I don't even remember. But the thing that really cracked something in me? That night, I opened the laundry room door and found a wine glass. Not ours. Not one of the mismatched Target ones we got after she shattered the wedding set during an accident. This one was delicate, crystal, lipstick stained, and next to it, a receipt. 2 entrees, 1 dessert, and a charge for valet at a steakhouse we never went to, because, according to her, it was too formal. She had told me she was working late that night. Said her boss needed help with a last-minute client pitch. I even sent her a good luck text. She never replied. Now, I know what you're thinking. Check the phone. Call the restaurant. Demand answers. But no, I didn't. Because guys like me, we rationalize. We excuse. We tell ourselves, maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'm the problem. So I waited. Waited until the next time she worked late. And this time, I followed her. That's when I saw the truth. And believe me, it's not what you expect. She said she was working late again. Same tone. Same lie. Same perfume I hadn't smelled in years. But this time, I didn't sit at home like some obedient houseplant waiting for the sun. I got in my car and followed her. Now, I'm not proud of this part. It made me feel like a creep. Like some jealous lunatic from a daytime drama. But when your wife tells you she's not responsible for your happiness and starts acting like you don't exist, you stop playing fair. You stop assuming you're crazy and start searching for proof that you're not. She didn't go to her office. She drove right past it. Instead, she pulled into the same steakhouse from the receipt I found. The one with valet parking and candlelit tables. The one that was too expensive for our anniversary last year. You know what we had instead that night? Leftover soup and an awkward silence. I parked across the street and watched from my car. My hands were sweating so bad I had to keep wiping them on my jeans. I couldn't even feel my fingers. I didn't know what I expected. A group of coworkers? A meeting? Something innocent, maybe. Something forgivable. But then I saw him. He opened her door before she even reached for it. Tall. Confident. Wearing a suit like he was born in one. She smiled. That smile, the one I hadn't seen in years. The one she used to save for me. And then she kissed him. Not a polite kiss. Not a, we've been dating for 2 weeks kiss. No, this was a full, slow, intimate kiss. The kind of kiss that erases any doubt. I felt like I was sinking. Like my bones were made of wet cement. But I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't scream or bang the dashboard like some wounded animal. I just sat there, completely still, and watched the woman I married, the woman I loved, walk inside with another man. I drove home in silence. I didn't even turn on the radio. Just listened to the sound of my own pathetic breathing. By the time she came home, it was past midnight. I was still awake, pretending to scroll my phone like I hadn't seen her betray me in 4K. She walked in, dropped her purse, and said, "Long day. Sorry I didn't text back." She kissed my forehead. My forehead. Like I was some sad relative in a hospital bed. I wanted to say something. I wanted to scream, "Who is he?" But I couldn't. Not yet. Because I needed more. And not because I didn't believe what I saw. I believed it with every broken piece of my heart. But because I knew, that if I confronted her now, she'd twist it. She'd gaslight me. Tell me I was paranoid, insecure, controlling. And part of me was scared she might be right. That's how far gone I was. So I waited. The next week, I made her breakfast. Asked about her day. Pretended I was fine. But behind her back, I was digging. I spent the next few days pretending I was fine, smiling when she walked in, asking how her meetings went, even folding her laundry, like some kind of emotionally paralyzed housekeeper. But underneath the surface, I was unraveling and building something at the same time, something ugly, something sharp. I was building clarity. She'd created an entire second life, and I was done letting her keep it secret. I started with her laptop. She never left it unlocked. But that Wednesday night, she forgot to shut the screen. I knew I had a window of maybe 30 seconds before she came out of the bathroom. I moved fast, my fingers trembling so much I nearly dropped the thing. I opened her browser. 2 tabs. One was for Pinterest, some board about Italy. The second one, a web-based texting app. Not iMessage, not WhatsApp, something I'd never heard of. But the message thread was still open. His name was Colin. That's all I had. No last name. But there were weeks of messages. Flirty, secretive. And not just that, they were planning things. Trips, little getaways. One of the last texts said, "Owen suspects nothing. I'm just keeping him calm till things are in place." Owen, that's me. Things in place. What things? My stomach twisted in ways I didn't know were physically possible. I shut the laptop just in time. She walked in with a towel on her head, humming. She glanced at me, and I smiled. She kissed my cheek and sat beside me on the couch, pulling a throw blanket over her lap. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst through my ribcage. All I could think was, how long had she been lying to me like this? And worse, what was she planning? I waited until she fell asleep. Then I crept back to her laptop and took photos of every message I could find. Dozens of screenshots. Conversations about me. About her finances. She was guiding this guy, feeding him information about what I owned, what accounts were joint, even saying how much life insurance we had. She wrote, "He's too passive to ever fight it. He'll just fade." Fade. That word lit something in me. I wasn't just a broken husband anymore. I was a target. I wasn't supposed to react. I was supposed to be predictable, a stepping stone. And that's when I made a decision. If she thought I was going to fade quietly, she had no idea who she married. By the next morning, I couldn't tell if I was more hurt or more humiliated. You ever stare at someone across the breakfast table and realize they're a stranger wearing the skin of the person you married? That's what it felt like. She was spreading jam on her toast, legs crossed, scrolling through her phone like she hadn't just plotted to financially gut me with her side project named Colin. I sat across from her, trying to eat cereal I couldn't even taste. She was talking about taking a pottery class. Pottery. The woman who once called clay sad mud. But I nodded, pretended I cared. Every second I played along was a second she wasn't aware that the man she thought was passive had flipped the script. I spent that afternoon gathering everything she underestimated. Paper trails, account logins, shared passwords I remembered from years ago when we were still us. I called my friend Dylan. He's an accountant, the kind who never asks questions when you sound like you've been emotionally shot in the chest. He met me in a gas station parking lot with a laptop and 2 coffees. We sat in my car and started combing through our finances. I knew she had access to all our joint accounts. What I didn't know was just how methodically she had been draining them, small amounts, routed through what looked like legitimate charges. A few spa trips here, some fake software subscriptions there. She even had a card in my name I'd never seen, opened right before my birthday last year. While I was planning a surprise dinner, she was building an exit fund. Dylan looked at me and said, "Dude, she's been doing this for a while. And she's good." I felt like an idiot. A stupid, trusting idiot who thought bringing home flowers twice a month could fix growing silence. But I wasn't here for pity. I was here for strategy. Then he asked something that froze me. "You got life insurance?" I nodded. "Yeah." "Why?" "How much?" "500,000. Whole life." "Yeah." He blinked slowly. "And you still trust this woman in your house, while she's planning with another man?" I sat back. Every breath felt heavier. The messages. The "he'll just fade" comment. The money being rerouted. The secrecy. The perfume. The late nights. Was it possible this wasn't just about an affair or leaving me for someone new? Was it worse? That night, I didn't sleep. I watched her through the cracked door as she scrolled, smiled, typed, deleted, then typed again. Her face lit by her phone, her finger twirling a lock of hair she hadn't done that with in years. And I felt something I hadn't felt before, Not heartbreak. Not even anger. Fear. Something wasn't right. And I couldn't tell anyone. Not yet. Because if I was wrong, I'd look insane. But if I was right, I might not have time. So I took the next step. I installed a camera. I bought the camera in cash. No paper trail. Tiny thing, no bigger than a thumb drive, and disguised as a phone charger. Dylan helped me set it up. We tested it 3 times before I plugged it into the socket in our bedroom, facing the mirror that caught half the room. She'd never notice. It looked like it had always been there. For days, nothing happened. She came home late, showered, scrolled, slept. No calls, no visitors, no evidence, except for the look in her eyes when she thought I wasn't watching. That cold, disconnected gaze. Like I was a chore. Like she was already living elsewhere in her mind. Still, I couldn't bring myself to watch all the footage. It felt like drinking poison in sips, hoping it wouldn't kill me all at once. Then, one night, everything changed. She said she had an off-site dinner with her boss. I played along, kissed her cheek, told her to have fun. She drove off in a rush, perfume hanging in the air like a lie. I waited 20 minutes, then opened my laptop and synced the feed. My hands were shaking. I didn't know what I was expecting. Honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted to know anymore. But at exactly 9:37 p.m., she came back. Alone, but not for long. She didn't know the camera was rolling. She didn't know I'd see her take off her heels, grab her phone, and walk straight into the bedroom. I watched as she opened the drawer of my nightstand, my drawer, and pulled out the envelope I had hidden behind old birthday cards. It was sealed. Had been for years. Inside was a copy of our prenup, some documents for our joint assets, and a letter I once wrote her back when we were trying to get pregnant. A letter about dreams. About love. About how I wanted to grow old with her. She tore it in half. No hesitation. No pause. Just ripped it like it was nothing. Then she turned to the mirror, the one facing the camera, and said softly, "Almost there." That was it. She walked out. Gone again into the night. My hands were clenched so tight I hadn't realized I'd drawn blood from digging my own nails into my palm. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, completely hollowed out. The letter wasn't just paper. It was everything I'd ever believed about who we were. And she tore it without even blinking. I called Dylan and asked him one question. "Can you track someone if I give you access to the car?" He said yes. The next morning, I told her I was going to visit my brother in Vermont for a few days. She nodded, barely registering it, already buried in her phone. I left, circled the block, parked behind the gas station 2 streets over, and waited. She left 3 hours later. Dylan had installed a tracker under the rear bumper earlier that week. She didn't go to work. She didn't go to a restaurant. She didn't even go to a house. She went to a storage unit. One I had no idea even existed. Dylan texted me the location. My heart sank when I looked it up. It was under my name. The storage unit was in a quiet industrial strip just outside town, wedged between a mechanic shop and a dusty billboard for a carpet cleaning service. Dylan followed behind in his own car. We didn't speak much during the drive. What do you even say to someone when your marriage has turned into a psychological thriller? We pulled into the lot around 11 a.m. I was dressed in a hoodie and baseball cap like I was about to rob a bank. I had the unit number. She'd been visiting it weekly, always during the day, always when she claimed she was at the gym or in a strategy meeting. Dylan handed me the spare key he had printed from the registration documents. My name, my ID. I still couldn't believe it. The lock clicked open, and the metal door groaned upward. What I saw inside didn't make sense at first. It wasn't a love nest or some hidden stash of cash. It was neat. Organized. Too organized. A long plastic table sat in the middle with folders, labeled binders, neatly stacked envelopes. It looked like a mobile command center. I stepped inside, trying to understand what I was even looking at. Then I saw my name. Over and over. Bank statements. Credit card reports. Medical files. Printouts of old emails I had forgotten I'd ever written. There was even a folder marked April 2017, fight at restaurant, with photos of my face after I'd fallen and broken my glasses, something I hadn't connected to anything serious at the time. She had documented everything. Everything bad. Everything that could be twisted. Holy. Dylan whispered behind me. She's building a case. He was right. It hit me like a punch to the throat. She wasn't just preparing to leave me. She was preparing to destroy me. Make me look unstable. Dangerous. Negligent. There were screenshots of texts taken out of context. Even a note she'd written in her handwriting titled Verbal Pattern Log. It detailed phrases I supposedly said that demonstrated controlling behavior. Some were real, some were twisted, some were complete fiction. And at the back, tucked under a small stack of folders, was a prepaid phone, still in its packaging, unopened. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it like it might detonate. I turned to Dylan and said, "She's staging a future where I'm the villain." And the worst part? It was working. If I hadn't seen what she wrote to Colin, if I hadn't caught her tearing up my letter, I might have believed her, that I was too sensitive, too needy, too emotional. But now, I saw it for what it was. She'd been rewriting the story of our marriage, and I was just the character too dumb to read ahead. We locked the unit and drove off. My hands were shaking on the wheel the whole time. I didn't feel like a man anymore. I felt like evidence. A person-sized case, file waiting to be shredded. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed beside her, watching her back rise and fall. She sighed in her sleep and smiled. I couldn't tell if it was the smile of someone at peace or someone who thought they'd already won. The next day, she left early again. Said she was getting brunch with a friend from college. I waited 30 minutes, then opened her closet. I was searching for anything that could explain how long this had been going on. That's when I found the purse. Stuffed in the side pocket was a crumpled, unsealed envelope. Inside was a receipt from a jewelry store across the state line, dated just 2 weeks ago. It wasn't in her name, it was in his. Colin. And scrawled across the bottom, in her handwriting, were 5 words that made my knees go weak. Let's make it official soon. She wasn't just planning to leave me. She was planning to marry him. I didn't eat for the rest of the day. I just sat in the garage in a fold-out chair, holding that receipt, trying to quiet the earthquake happening inside me. Let's make it official soon. She wrote it casually, like I was already erased. Like my heart, my history, my existence was just a technicality she hadn't filed away yet. But here's the thing. I wasn't going to let her finish the story she was writing about me. I'd spent months, years, tiptoeing around her coldness, shrinking myself just to keep the peace, ignoring the way she flinched when I reached for her hand. But that version of me, the passive, obedient placeholder, he was gone. I called Dylan again. "Remember when you said she thinks you'll fade?" he asked. "Yeah." "Then don't fade. Flip the narrative." That night, I made dinner. Not takeout. Not frozen pizza. A real meal. I cooked the way I did in the early years. Rosemary chicken, roasted potatoes, garlic bread from scratch. I even lit candles. Set the table. Played soft jazz from the speaker in the corner. I wanted her to walk in and feel like everything was perfectly normal, because the trap doesn't work unless the prey walks in willingly. She got home around 8, stepped in, and paused. Her eyes swept across the room like she didn't recognize the house. "What's this?" she asked cautiously. I smiled. "Thought we could eat together for once." She blinked. Suspicious. But she sat. We ate. She complimented the chicken. We even laughed. For a second, I think she convinced herself I was still the fool she believed I was. And then I pulled out the envelope. The jewelry store receipt. Her face drained like someone had flipped a switch. "What is this?" she whispered, eyes darting. "You tell me," I said, calm as a lake before a storm. She pushed her chair back. "You've been spying on me?" "No," I said. "You've been planning my funeral in a wedding dress." She tried to stand, but I placed my hand on the table, flat, firm, unshaking. "Sit down, Mara." She did. And then I told her everything. The camera, the texts, the storage unit, the fake narrative, the secret phone, every screenshot, every quote, every betrayal. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at me with that same quiet cruelty and said, "You don't have the guts to do anything about it." And in that moment, I saw her clearly for the first time. Not the woman I married. Not even the woman who cheated. But the strategist. The architect of my humiliation. So I smiled. "That's where you're wrong." I slid my phone across the table. Pressed play. Her voice came through the speaker loud and clear from the camera footage. "He'll just fade." She went still. Like stone. Then, I dropped the final card. "I've already met with an attorney. The prenup holds. You get nothing. And by tomorrow morning, this house will be locked, your access will be revoked, and all of your pretty little games? Dead in the water." For the first time, she looked scared. Not devastated. Not guilty. Cornered. And that's when I saw it. That thing I hadn't seen in so long. Respect. Or at least, fear disguised as it. She didn't say a word, just stared at the phone on the table like it might burst into flames. I could almost see the calculations flickering behind her eyes, trying to find the angle, the escape, the next manipulation. But this time, there wasn't one. She was checkmated, and she knew it. The next morning, I followed through. The house, transferred fully to my name. She had signed off on that years ago, not realizing what she gave away in the process. The accounts? Locked down. Access revoked. Her name removed from everything that mattered. She stormed out around noon with nothing but a duffel bag and a glare I'll never forget. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. I watched her leave and felt nothing. No heartbreak. No guilt. Just air. Clean, crisp air after a long storm. Dylan and I split a pizza that night on the living room floor, laughing like idiots while we deleted every photo she'd ever hung up. He looked at me at one point and said, "You look lighter." And I did. I was. Weeks passed. Papers were filed. Her lawyer tried to make noise, but the prenup held tight, just like Dylan said. Turns out love letters don't hold up in court, but digital footprints sure do. Her little archive in the storage unit burned her case to the ground. Even her own attorney looked embarrassed. Colin, well, let's just say his name came up in some workplace misconduct investigation not long after. Something about a relationship with a married client. Karma has excellent timing. And me? I started fresh. I moved into a small place just outside the city. Nothing fancy, but quiet. Clean. I got a dog. A mutt with one floppy ear and more loyalty than I ever got from a decade-long marriage. I even took a trip to Italy, ironically. The same place she had pinned on her secret Pinterest board. I sat on a hill in Florence, sipped bitter espresso, and wrote a letter to my future self. Not one about love or promises. Just truth. Real, raw truth. So here I am. Whole. Free. And not fading like she predicted. I'm finally becoming. If you made it this far, thank you. I know I've rambled. I know I've sounded like a mess. But sometimes, the ugliest stories give birth to the strongest endings. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever discovered something that changed the entire story you thought you were living? Drop it in the comments. I'll be reading every single one. And if this story moved you even a little, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your voice below. This has been Reddit Confessions, where the quietest people often carry the loudest truths. Until next time.